Shocking true story. Haunted KUBO of foreigners. Bone-chilling Aswang encounter at midnight. It was a night like no other. The air was thick, almost electric, as a strange fog rolled in, swallowing the small village whole. Shadows darted between the trees, twisting into grotesque shapes that sent shivers down spines and brought forth whispers of an eerie legend. The locals spoke of the Aswang, a creature that fed on the very essence of fear. But tonight it was not the legends that haunted the residents. It was the very real presence of foreigners, who had foolishly chosen to rent the old KUBO on the edge of the jungle. The KUBO stood defiantly among the towering palm trees, its wooden slats creaking like bones in the wind. Barbed wires long rusted, encased the place like a prison. It drew attention like a moth to a flame, and curiosity overcame the townsfolk. What were they doing there? Why hadn't they heeded the warnings? As the clock struck midnight, the villagers gathered in hushed concern, eyes glued to the flickering lights from within the KUBO. A sudden scream shattered the quiet. Was it a prank? A burst of laughter from within was followed by a heavy silence that fell over the crowd like a wet blanket. The villagers exchanged glances, unease bubbling just below the surface. They remembered the stories, the tales of bodies disappearing in the night, lives snuffed out without a trace. Could it be happening again? Just then a figure stumbled out of the KUBO, eyes wide with terror. His shirt was torn, a deep gash cut across his arm, blood seeping into the fabric, coloring it an ominous red. "It's real," he gasped, each word punctuated by shallow breaths. "The Aswang is real. We saw it." Gasps rippled through the villagers, disbelief etched across their faces. Had those reckless foreigners truly encountered the sinister beast? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The crowd surged forward, eyes wide with suspicion and horror. They could see the panic etched on the man's face as he recounted the events of the night, a shadow so dark it seemed to consume the moonlight, eyes glowing with hunger. He trembled, his story twisting with urgency. The KUBO felt alive, the wood pulsating with something unholy. "We thought it was just a joke," he continued, voice breaking. "But it was no joke. We could hear it breathing." The whispers grew louder, spiraling into a frenzy of disbelief and panic. Some tried to convince themselves that it was nothing more than drunken imagination, but others stood frozen, gripped by the unshakable notion that the darkness had come alive. The tension hung thick in the air, heavy with a sense of doom. They all knew one thing. Whatever happened next would change their lives forever. Was the Aswang lurking in the shadows, waiting for its next victim? As the moon hung high, casting its cold glow over the frenzy below, the KUBO creaked in the distance, an ominous invitation to uncover the sinister truths of the night. What secrets were buried deep within its walls? And could anyone return from it alive? The villagers stood paralyzed, the chilling air wrapping around them as fear gripped their hearts. The words of the wounded man echoed in their minds like a haunting chant. The Aswang is real. In the KUBO, the foreigner who had stumbled outside leaned against the rough wooden wall, his body shaking uncontrollably. His friends remained inside, oblivious to the danger lurking outside. Jake, one of them, had dismissed the warnings with an arrogant laugh earlier that evening, shrugging off old tales as mere superstition. But now, as he stared into the dimness of the room filled with shadows, doubt gnawed at him. "Guys," Jake called out, his voice trembling. We should leave. This isn't just some prank." Lana and Sophia, clutching candles that flickered like their dwindling courage, shared a worried glance. "It can't be real," Sophia muttered, her voice barely above a whisper as she edged closer to the open window, peering into the obsidian night. Suddenly, a thud echoed from the back of the KUBO. It felt like a heartbeat, heavy and ominous. The group whipped around, eyes darting toward the dark corner where the sound had resonated. "Is someone there?" Jake yelled, though the quiver in his voice betrayed him. The silence that followed was stifling. Then a guttural growl broke it. It came from deep within the shadows, a sound so raw and animalistic it sent shivers racing down their spines. They could feel it, an oppressive weight pressing down, making it hard to breathe. Jake stepped back instinctively, bumping into a table laden with local snacks that now felt like a weak barrier against the night. What was that? He stammered, panic creeping into his tone. We need to get out of here, Lana cried, her eyes widening with terror. But as they turned to make their escape, the door slammed shut with a force that rattled the walls. The sound echoed like a death knell, planting despair deep in their chests. Who did that? Sophia gasped, backing away from the door, which seemed to pulse like a living creature. They were trapped in invisible prison wrapped around them. Outside, the crowd had begun to chant, their voices rising like a storm. The villagers were invoking ancient protection, a call to arms against the malevolent spirit they feared had taken hold of the KUBO. Yes, right. One older villager shouted to the group. This is a bad omen. We can't just leave them in there. But some believed they were too late already. Others murmured hurried prayers, desperate pleas to the ancestors for safety. The uncertainty hung thick in the air as they watched the KUBO, its shadow stretching and warping under the light of the moon. Inside, Jake frantically pulled against the door, but it wouldn't budge. Maybe we can break a window, he suggested, desperation clawing at his throat. Are you crazy? Lana shouted. What if it hears us? What if it's waiting for just that? Just then they heard it, a rustling like claws against wood, followed by an unsettling silence that made their blood run cold. The air seemed to vibrate with anticipation, thickening with every passing second, and then they heard the voice. A voice that wasn't human, soft yet piercing. Join us, it whispered, echoing through the stillness and gripping them all with icy fingers. What does it want? Jake whispered, wide-eyed, as the temperature in the room plummeted. Closer than they thought, the Aswang was waiting. Would they uncover the truth of the KUBO before time ran out? Or would they fall victim to the nightmare that lurked just beyond the shadows? The candle flames danced wildly, casting eerie shadows on the walls of the KUBO. Jake's heart pounded in his chest, every beat amplifying the terror that hung thick in the air. We're not alone, he breathed, eyes wide with panic. Lana and Sophia were frozen in fear. The whisper, a chilling invitation, lingered in their minds, pooling like ice water in their veins. What did it mean? We should stick together, Lana urged, her voice barely above a whisper, trembling at the thought of what lurked beyond the door. The sounds outside intensified, the villagers chanting faster, their voices rising like a tide against the darkness. Each word felt like a desperate attempt to ward off the very horror that threatened them. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the tension, and the window shattered into a rain of shards. Startled, they all turned toward the sound, gazes locked on the shattered glass. More hushed whispers slithered through the air. What if it's already inside? Sophia whimpered, edging closer to Lana as if their combined fear could shield them from the impending doom. Jake, driven by a rush of adrenaline, dashed toward the door, a furious determination in his eyes. I'm getting out of here. With all his strength, he slammed his shoulder against the door, hoping to break free of their confinement. But the door held steady, mocking him with its refusal to yield. It was like hitting a wall of concrete. They heard the crash of furniture outside, thumps and guttural growls mingling with the villagers' urgent prayers. The Aswang's presence buzzed in the air like static, a growing malevolence that sent shivers through their bones. Something was watching them, waiting. What are we gonna do? Lana cried, clutching her candle as if it were a lifeline. We can't just wait for it to come for us. Then came a spine-chilling howl, echoing through the air, a sound that boiled fear into every fiber of their being. Cut through the night, chilling them to the core. They could almost feel the Aswang's breath grazing their skin. How do we fight something we can't see? Sophia whispered, her voice breaking under the weight of dread. There was chaos outside. The villagers were chanting louder now, and another frantic crash made the KUBO shudder. Jake's mind raced. What could they do? Get away from the windows, he yelled, urgency creeping into his voice. The shadows were shifting, folding in on themselves as if something were moving within them. They complied, gathering in the center of the room, candles illuminating their faces painted with fear. An oppressive silence fell over them, a heartbeat of stillness. In that moment something slithered across the floor, dark and unnatural. It crept closer, sending waves of dread rippling through the group. Then the voice came again, clearer now, a seductive whisper that felt almost familiar. "Join us, you belong with us." Each soft syllable clawed at their sanity, wrapping around them, making it hard to discern reality from nightmare. "Stop it!" Jake shouted, frustrated and afraid. "You're not real. Get out of our heads." With an unexpected fury, he grabbed a makeshift weapon, an old rusted kitchen knife that lay on the table. The cold metal glinted under the candlelight, feeling heavier than it should. "If it comes in here, I'll fight it. I won't let it take us." But even as he spoke those words, doubt wormed through him. He felt so small against the enormity of the terror they faced, and that soft, slithery voice only seemed to grow stronger, echoing in the back of his mind. Suddenly, the KUBO shook violently, as if the Aswang were trying to rip the walls apart, trying to pull them into its dark embrace. What had started as a night of fun and laughter had turned into a desperate struggle for survival. Facing a creature of nightmares, could they truly resist the sinister call? Would they be strong enough to withstand the Aswang's sinister promise, or would they slip into the darkness forever? As the shadows closed in tighter, the question lingered in the air like a warning bell. What darkness awaited them beyond the threshold of fear? The walls of the KUBO trembled, a low growl vibrating through the very ground. Jake's heart pounded, each thump screaming to him that time was running out. The candle's light flickered violently as if the room itself were holding its breath, straining against the nightmare that loomed just beyond their fragile sanctuary. "What is it?" Lana gasped, her eyes darting to the door, the very fabric of her courage fraying at the edges. Then they heard it, a pulsating sound, thrumming through the air like a heartbeat echoing in a cavern of shadows. It was close, way too close. The panic in the room felt like a live wire, crackling with energy. Jake gripped the kitchen knife tighter, his hands shaking, the steel biting into his palm. Sweat beaded on his forehead, the room suddenly too hot, too tight. "Prevent it from getting in," he shouted, his voice splintering the oppressive silence. He shoved a wooden chair against the door, the sound of wood scraping against the floor echoing like a scream. "We'll fight it together." Sophia's breath caught in her throat. Together? But how? Just looking at it, she faltered, desperation creeping into her voice. "What if it's already in our heads?" Something slammed against the door, sending a shockwave through their bodies, the chair skidding slightly. "Stay calm," Jake rallied, though he could feel the tremor of fear gnawing at him as well. Outside, the villagers' chants morphed into a frenzied cacophony, rising and falling like the tide. "Shut up," Jake yelled out into the chaos, his spirit defiant even as doubt clawed its way into his heart. "We need to focus." A guttural roar from outside cut through his words, raw and primal. The chilling howl permeated through the door, wrapping itself around them like a tendril of ice. "What are they even saying?" Lana asked, her voice quaking. "Does it matter?" "Maybe it wards it off," Jake replied, surprise creeping into his own tone. "Or maybe it calls to it." Sophia clutched Lana's arm, the weight of their situation crashing down against them. "What happens if we can't fight it?" The shadows outside shifted again, more restless now. Another crash echoed from the door, the wood creaking in a tortured protest. Jake could feel the Aswang's breath, heavy and rancid as it washed over him like a dark fog. "Whatever happens, we stay together," he cried, rallying their spirits. Then silence. No sounds of chanting, no growls. Just the terrifying quiet enveloping them. Every breath felt like an intrusion, the tension strangling the air around them. The dark voice returned, thicker, more seductive. "Let go, join us." It pulsed not just in the air but in their very minds, threading through memories, tugging at long-forgotten fears and regrets. "Stop it," Jake shouted, dropping the knife that clattered to the ground as he clutched his head. He stumbled back, feeling the walls closing in on him. "Fight it. Don't listen." But was it too late? Jessica and Lana's eyes mirrored what he feared the most. Doubt was seeping in. They could turn on him. They could join the Aswang instead. The thought sent bile rising in his throat. "Lana," Jake called, reaching out toward her. "Lana, don't let it in." But even as he spoke, he could feel the air shift, a heavy pressure weighed on their hearts, whispering promises of power, freedom from fear. The shadows coalesced, dark and swirling, and for a brief moment, The three of them caught sight of something lurking within the glimmer of gray eyes reflecting candlelight, a dreadful glimpse of what waited in the dark. They were eyes that belonged to something alive, something hungry. Just as quickly, the vision vanished, and with it, their fleeting sense of hope. "Please help us," Sophia cried out, the plea echoing in the silence. With the shadows clawing at their sanity and whispers beckoning them into oblivion, only one question remained. Would their bond of friendship be enough to withstand the Aswang's chilling call, or would they be swallowed whole by the darkness that beckoned? The door trembled again, the pressure increasing. What was behind it? And who would be the first to break? The silence was shattered by a series of frantic knocks against the door, each thud more desperate than the last. Jake's heart raced. The Aswang was out there, a beast that thrived on fear, and it was only a matter of time before it found a way in. He glanced at Sophia and Lana, their faces pale, their eyes wide as if they could see the darkness creeping just beyond the door. "Hold on," he urged, pushing against the chair wedged under the doorknob. "We can't let it in." The pounding crescendoed, a rhythmic hammering that seemed to sync with the wild beating of his heart. Fear morphed into anger. They were not merely victims. "We will fight. We will not die here." The shadows grew denser, swirling in the corners of the KUBO, as if eager to consume every light. His grasp tightened around the knife, a flimsy protection against whatever horror awaited them. And then it was there, a whisper barely audible, slithering its way into their thoughts like poison. "Open the door, just let us in." Was it real? Was it something born of their minds, a trick from the beast outside? He turned to his friends. The doubt in their eyes mirrored his own. "Fight it," he shouted, shaking his head violently to dispel the insidious voice clouding his judgment. Lana took a step back, trembling. What if they're right? What if we can join them? Maybe it would stop. "No." Jake's voice rang through the oppressive air. "You don't understand. It's lying to you. We must stay strong." But as he attempted to convince them, he felt the pull of darkness, memories of childhood fears, sorrows left unaddressed. All whispered back at him through the relentless voice. A promise of liberation if only they would yield. He fought to keep his mind clear, but there was sweat pooling at his temples, uncertainty clawing at him. Lana's face hardened for a moment as if she had wrested control back. "We can do this, right? Together," she said, trying to rally her own courage. Another crash, but this time it felt different, as if whatever was outside was testing its strength. Sophia was shivering now, almost as if she were soaking up the surrounding dread. I can't do this." "Stop," Jake shouted, his voice cracking with the weight of their reality. "You can. Sophia, listen to me." The shadows flickered violently, the candlelight dancing as if it were about to dim for good. Tension rolled through the space, thick and suffocating, stifling their breath. Then silence again. Heavy, uncomfortable silence that crawled under their skin. "Is it gone?" Lana whispered, her voice barely breaking through the suffocation. The howl ripped through the stillness, a sound so gut-wrenching it felt like it originated from the very depths of hell. It echoed off the walls, forcing Jake to drop to his knees. The knife slipped from his fingers, clattering to the floor. "Together. Remember the strength of our friendship," Sophia choked out, but even as she said it, Jake could see the cracks forming in her resolve. They needed a plan. They needed to do something. The chanting from the villagers resumed, louder now, frantic. He turned back to the door, taking a deep breath. "Can we trust them?" The villagers, before he could finish his thought, the door bucked and trembled fiercely again, splinters flying. Lana gasped, her fingers curling tightly around a hard object, a large metal bowl, glinting in the dim light. "If we can't keep it out, we'll have to face it. Together, right?" The shadows shifted once more. Their movement quickened, and the edges of the room started to blur. The voices in the dark grew louder, intertwining with his own thoughts, beckoning him closer, promising power. "Now!" Jake shouted as another loud crash sent the door shuddering. Could he rely on his friends? Would they hold firm against the impending doom? Everything hung in the balance. Would they unite one last time to confront the horror? Or would the whisper swallow them whole as the door burst open, unleashing the Aswang within? With the door beginning to splinter, Jake took one last look at his friends, knowing that whatever came next would change everything. And in that moment the question loomed larger than life. Did they even have enough strength left to survive? The door cracked again, the wood splintering with a violence that sent shards scattering across the floor. Jake's heart dropped. This was it. They would have to fight or die trying. "Get ready," he yelled, scrambling to his feet. Lana raised the metal bowl high, her knuckles white against its edges. She was a fragile frame in terror, but there flickered a small flame of defiance in her eyes. "Whatever it is, we stand together," Sophia echoed, bravely gripping a makeshift weapon, a broken chair leg. It wasn't much, but it was something. The room vibrated with the Aswang's presence, a force heavier than the air around them. Its sinister whispers echoed, rising and falling like a dark melody that threatened to unhinge their sanity. "Let us in. Let us free you." Jake could sense the grip of fear tightening around them, claws digging deeper. "No!" he shouted, desperation lacing his voice. "That's a lie. It wants to break us." With an earth-shattering crash, the door flew open, splintered fragments hanging in the air like a macabre curtain. The Aswang was there, an amorphous shadow with piercing red eyes that glinted like embers. The beast stood poised, exuding a hunger that twisted Jake's insides. Lana stumbled back, her resolve cracking under the pressure. "I can't." Jake lunged forward. "You can. Focus. We're stronger together." The monster let out a low growl, the sound vibrating through their bones. Its mouth split open, revealing row upon row of jagged teeth. Sophia stepped beside Jake, her legs barely holding her. "What do we do?" she gasped. "Create a barrier," Jake commanded, hoping to rally them. They used the chair, pushing it forward as a weak shield. Felt futile, but if they stood together there was a chance. The Aswang lunged, its dark form sweeping forward with terrifying speed. Jake braced himself, pushing against the chair with all his strength. The beast collided with it, making the wood creak as the chair bent under the force. "Help me!" Jake roared, desperate fingers splayed against the chair, eyes locked with the snarling creature. He could see the hunger in its gaze, a primal urge to consume them whole. Lana swung the bowl, the metallic clang ringing through the air as it connected with the creature's side. For a moment the beast staggered, its claws retracting. "We can hurt it," she cried, her courage reigniting. Sophia seized her chance, thrusting the chair leg toward the Aswang. It shrieked, a sound that twisted into the very marrow of Jake's bones. They could do this. Hope surged like wildfire, igniting their weary hearts. But just as they found their footing, the Aswang howled, sending a wave of darkness cascading toward them. Shadows weaved and tangled around Jake's feet, heavy and suffocating. Panic flared anew as the whispers echoed louder, drowning out everything. "Join us. Embrace the pain. Stay focused," Jake shouted, fighting through the waves of despair. The darkness clawed at him, shadows trying to snatch his very essence. He stumbled back, breath catching as he struggled to push it away. Moments felt like eternity. Something was changing, something deep inside the KUBO. An awakening. "What is happening?" Sophia gasped, her eyes wide with terror. "They're rising," Jake whispered, hardly believing his own words. The villagers' chants intensified, reverberating like a heartbeat. The shadows' transformed spirits emerged, flickering and torn, grappling against the Aswang. As the darkness shifted, the Aswang turned its fierce gaze on the new threat, its eyes tearing away from Jake and his friends. Relief washed over him, but it wasn't over. "Now, we have to strike," he urged, determination fueling his voice. They couldn't waste this chance. But as they lunged forward, the beast leaped, a horrifying snarl escaping its lips. Jake felt his hope falter. "Together," he shouted again, fear and defiance tangled in his voice. Would they truly be able to push back the darkness? Or was this only the beginning of a far worse nightmare? In that electric moment, Jake realized the fight had just begun. The soul of the KUBO was at stake, and with it their lives. Would the spirits truly aid them in this battle against the Aswang? Or would they be lost forever in the darkness? As the Aswang lunged, darkness billowing around it, time seemed to slow. Jake's heart thundered, matching the growl of the beast. He could feel the weight of despair squeezing around his chest. But it was now or never. "Hold the line," he yelled, readying himself to push against the onslaught. The chair creaked again, protesting as it struggled to hold back the shadowy beast. The whispers clawed at his mind, doubts, fears, and glimpses of their potential demise slipping through like ghosts in the night. Lana tugged on Jake's shoulder. A sudden grip of urgency. What if we can't? Then we fight harder. He didn't even recognize his own voice, ragged and fierce like a lion ready to spring. Just when it seemed the darkness would swallow them whole, the spirits around the KUBO surged forward. Jake caught sight of them. Figures once lost in torment now glimmered with purpose. They twisted, pushing against the Aswang. An army of fury ignited by years of pain. Sophia's chair leg collided with the dark creature once more. Get back! Jake shouted, thrusting his body against the chair as the Aswang lashed out. Claws grazed his arm, sending a jolt of pain radiating through him. Warmth trickled down his wrist, but the sting only fueled his resolve. Fighting was the only option. With a fierce roar, the Aswang twisted, eyes aflame with rage. It lunged again, and Jake caught a horrifying glimpse of its gaping maw, dripping with malice. Just as he thought they were done for, something primal within him ignited. Remember the chance, he shouted. Channel the energy. Fight through it. Sophia squeezed his shoulder, nodding fiercely as the three of them focused their minds together. In a sudden rush of adrenaline, they lifted the chair and prepared to strike once more. The Aswang recoiled, sensing their unity. But it was relentless, striking out with its dark tendrils, swirling around them like a hunting mist. Lana cried out as one slithered around her throat. No! Jake pushed forward, adrenaline sharpening his focus. Let her go. With a primal scream, he lunged into the mass of shadows, fighting to free her, pain twisting in his gut as the darkness pulled him in, threatening to consume him. The villagers' voices resonated in the air, strong, rhythmic chants echoing their ancestral strength. It was the lifeline they needed. A wave of energy surged through Jake as he felt the spirits rally around him, their combined will flowing into his body like an electric shock. Together! Jake cried, and with a surge of energy the shadows recoiled, giving room to breath. They pushed through the darkness into the heart of the Aswang, their desperate hope incarnate. Just then the beast shrieked, piercing the stillness with a sound that could shatter glass. The shadows writhed and twisted, the spirits fading and reforming in a chaos of light and darkness. It was a fierce battle, and each second felt like an eternity. The air was thick with tension, as if the very essence of life teetered on the brink. But with each clash, Jake realized they were not just fighting the Aswang. No, this was a fight of their own survival and redemption, their very souls bound to this sacred ground. With defiance blazing fiercely in his heart, he thrust the chair leg deep into the darkness, feeling its potency course through him, the essence of the KUBO anchoring him against despair. And then in the eye of the storm Jake caught a glimpse of truth. The Aswang wasn't just a monster. It was a manifestation of their greatest fears. As the creature faltered, flickers of light pierced through the chaos around them. Now! Jake yelled, their battle reaching its fever pitch. They pressed forward once more, united, their chants rising above the screams of uncertainty. But just as victory seemed within reach, the Aswang slashed out with renewed fury. It would not go down without a fight, and a wave of darkness surged back, threatening to encircle them again. The shadows whispered louder once more. You cannot escape, this was only a taste of the darkness within. Would they be strong enough to face what lay ahead? Or would the very soul of the KUBO be torn apart in the struggle? As the darkness pressed in, lingering with malevolence, Jake gulped back fear. The real battle was just beginning. The shadows lunged again, swirling wildly as if alive. Jake's breath quickened, the pulse in his ears pounding like a war drum. Fear clutched at every thread of his being, but rage simmered beneath. It was now or never. Lana! He shouted, desperation slicing through his voice like the Aswang's teeth. Get ready! He could see her fighting against the tendrils, her face twisted in determination. The chants grew louder in his mind. In that moment they weren't just voices, they were lifelines, guiding him deeper into the fray. The whispers clamored around him, pulling at his sanity. Every doubt screamed louder, but he resisted. Suddenly the Aswang reared back, its crimson eyes locking onto Jake with an intensity that sent chills down his spine. You think your chants can defeat me? It growled, its voice a low rumble that echoed with ancient malice. I think they can bring you down. Jake shot back. Igniting his fury, he pushed through the rising tide of fear. Don't you get it? The creature hissed, its shadowy form twisting closer. I am your greatest fear. A tendril whipped out, approaching with lethal speed. The room seemed to darken, time stretching unnaturally. In that terrifying instant, Jake felt a flicker of doubt try to engulf him. No, he cried, gathering every ounce of strength. They were fighting for more than survival. They were fighting to reclaim their lives, to open the gates of the past that had long been shrouded in darkness. Chance. Together. Sophia screamed, and they poured their souls into the words, the volume crescendoing until it vibrated through the very core of the KUBO. A bright light erupted from the spirits, rushing toward the Aswang like a tidal wave. The creature shrieked, arching in pain, the sound splitting the air. Shadows flickered and flickered, struggling against the overwhelming force. It was disorienting, and Jake felt dizzy from the intensity. But he didn't falter. Now push. He yelled, joining his friends at the movement's apex. With a synchronized cry, they propelled the chair forward, driving it deep into the wailing beast. The Aswang recoiled. You think this ends here? It bellowed, but even as it spoke, its form flickered, revealing the ghastly truth beneath the essence of suffering, fear, and anguish pouring from its core. You are nothing, Lana screamed, pressing against the overwhelming force. We choose hope. A final surge ignited within Jake. He remembered the warmth of laughter, cherished moments, and the faith that gripped them tightly against despair. With that in mind, he reached into the chaos, his hands trembling with purpose, pulling every ounce of strength they had left. And then, as if the universe was responding, the energies converged. Jake felt a moment of pure clarity, a wide-open realization that their fears were interwoven with their strength. The Aswang shrieked, shadows twisting violently around as colors clashed in a cacophony of light and darkness. As the two worlds collided, a rift opened, the negative energy spiraling around them like a whirlwind. It drew the tendrils closer, consuming the beast in its own dark essence. But then Jake gasped as he noticed, out of the corner of his eye, something shifting at the edge of the room. A figure emerged from the far shadows, pale and haunting. It was a woman, her expression twisted in a silent scream. She reached out, her hand trembling, the memories of those lost sweeping through her like echoes from the other side. Jake, her voice was soft like silk, yet terrifyingly hollow. They want you to remember. Before he could react, the Aswang surged in a final attempt to break free, and the room trembled. The walls moaned as if the KUBO itself was alive, caught between realms, and Jake felt their fight teetering on the edge. And that perilous moment, he had to make a choice. Would he confront the very darkness they feared? The price of their survival loomed ominously ahead. A deafening silence enveloped them as the Aswang's form staggered, flickering like a faulty light. Jake's heart raced. The woman's presence echoed in his mind, her words a haunting whisper that wrapped around his thoughts. They want you to remember. Forget her, Lana screamed, her voice cracking through the tension. Focus, Jake. We need to keep pushing. The shadows writhed around them, the familiar voice of fear clawing back into Jake's mind. Memories flashed, fragments of their past, moments buried under layers of pain. And yet, amidst the chaos, he felt something stir within him, a flicker of resolve. The woman continued to reach for him, her gaze intensifying as if begging him to understand. Who are you? He shouted, his voice trembling but daring. Remember, the truth will set you free. The woman's presence felt achingly familiar, like a lost piece of himself waiting to be uncovered. In that moment, an eruption of shadows surged forth from the Aswang, its eyes blazing with rage. You dare to probe the depths of your own misery? I am fed by your despair. No, you're wrong, Jake shouted back, bewildered at his sudden surge of confidence. You're not my fear. You're the embodiment of the pain I've wrestled with for too long. You thrive on it. But I won't let you have it. He turned to his friends, who looked only momentarily surprised, but quickly rallied around him, voices joining in a steely chorus of strength. Together they became a barrier against the darkness, their chants rising, pushing against the tide. Remember your love, your joy, Sophia shouted, and Jake felt their energy coalesce, weaving through the air like firelight. The memories of laughter, Jake added, breathless, his heart pounding harder. The bonds we built, the love we fought for. These are our truths. The Aswang screeched, agonizing notes reverberating through the room, its tendrils recoiling. Yet, it also oscillated in fury, shadows convulsing violently as if to snuff out their light. Desperation clawed at Jake's heart as his own doubts tried to resurface. What if I can't defeat it? He thought, panic clawing through him. But then he remembered those who had come before him, the love that filled the KUBO with vibrancy, its walls steeped in their history. Not here. He spat defiantly. We are here to take back what you stole. As the words tumbled out, the bright light intensified, filling the room with a golden warmth, and they surged forward, pushing against the darkness with a force that made the walls tremble. And in that critical moment, he felt the presence of the woman behind him, a comforting embrace that fortified his resolve. Together their collective voices became tidal, drowning out the Aswang's chilling wails. In a burst of clarity, Jake realized that the shadows were not merely enemies to be vanquished. They were facets of his own struggles seeking acknowledgement. The fight was not just against the Aswang but also against those very shadows that lived within him. But just as the atmosphere shifted, the ground jolted beneath them. The rift widened, an ominous void forming at the center of the KUBO, crackling with pure energy. Panic surged through Jake. The Aswang, though wounded, began to lash out with increasing fury, its silhouette contorting grotesquely. What's happening? Lana yelled, her face white with fear. I don't know. But we can't stop, Jake cried, desperate. And then he saw it. In the swirling chaos, the woman positioned herself, her expression transforming, twisted, yet serene. You must remember or you'll lose everything. Their survival hinged now on facing the truth. Jake reached deep within himself, feeling every past moment, every fear. He had to embrace it, to confront the woman beyond the shadows. What was the truth she held? And could they harness it against the Aswang's final rage? He couldn't help but wonder, was this battle for survival, or something far more profound? The KUBO shook violently, an embodiment of every emotion that had flooded the night. We have to remember everything, Jake shouted, eyes darting between his friends and the chaotic shadows swirling around them. The memories, the laughter. They're our shield. Sweat dripped down his brow, heart pounding like a drum in the silence that was anything but still. The Aswang shrieked, a raw sound that cut through the tension, reverberating off bone and wood, drowning out all thoughts of fear. Together, Jake urged, clenching his fists, anchoring himself against the tempest. Bring forth all the joy, all the light we've ever shared. Lana's face lit up with realization. Our late-night talks, the laughter at the beach. Remember the games we played? As if summoned by her words, a warm glow infused the space, countering the oppressive darkness, binding their memories together. Jake could almost see them, flashes of bright moments swirling in vibrant colors amidst the shadows. Friendly banter over shared meals, the sound of splashes as they dared each other into the water, laughter echoing through the cozy night sky. They were strong moments filled with love and connection, bursting to life with vibrancy. He felt it, the warmth of camaraderie igniting within. With renewed determination, Jake took a step forward, breaking through the suffocating grip of uncertainty. Let us push it back. Not just for us but for everyone who has ever walked into this KUBO. The Aswang recoiled, sensing their unity, shadows dimming slightly. It was a chance, an opening. Now, Jake yelled, urging them on. As they drew strength from one another, a flash of light exploded outward, illuminating the KUBO in a radiant embrace. The walls trembled, as if the very wood itself was grateful for their resolve. No, the Aswang howled, a sound filled with rage and despair. It lashed out, but Jake stood firm, clutching the old kitchen knife once more, ready to defend against its last-ditch effort. Sophia, emboldened by Jake's conviction, swung the broken chair leg, connecting with the beast as it lunged forward. We're not afraid of you, she shouted, strengthened by the bond they'd forged through the night. With every chant, every shared memory, the beast's dark form flickered, growing weaker. It was like pushing back a tide of despair with the force of sacred truth. Laughter, friendship, all of it became their weapons against the darkness, a contrast that painted the air with courage. Close your eyes and remember, Lana encouraged, and they all did. Memories flooded back. Warm afternoons spent laughing, a canopy of stars above as they shared their hopes and dreams, fragile moments that had woven them together like a tapestry of life. The Aswang shrieked again, but this time the sound was frayed, cracking under the weight of their rising spirits. It bared its jagged teeth, desperately trying to find a way back into their minds, but it was too late. The light they had conjured pushed away the shadows like dawn breaking through the night. In a final surge, Jake shouted, "We choose our truth, not this pain." They pressed forward one last time, unyielding as the Aswang's form trembled, its hold on the night fraying. Shadows scattered, drawn back, consumed by the shining light of warmth and shared laughter, memories devouring fear's grip. With one last roar, the creature imploded, disintegrating into a mist of darkness that evaporated into the air, leaving only a hint of the nightmare behind. The oppressive weight that had filled the KUBO lifted, leaving room for breath and laughter to return as silence settled in. The candlelight flickered gently around them, the air softening, filled with an echoing calm that brushed against their skin like a long-lost friend. They stood together, hearts pounding, breathless from their battle. Did we do it?" Sophia whispered, the disbelief coloring her words. Jake turned to his friends, relief cascading through him as laughter bubbled up from within. "We did. We fought it together. We remembered." Their giggles, once tinged with disbelief, rang through the KUBO, filling the corners with light and joy. This was more than just survival. It had become a testament to friendship, their bond forged stronger in the fire of fear. Just then a whisper of the night returned, not of dread but of gratitude. It seemed the souls of the past lingered, appreciating their fight, their laughter echoing softly against the walls. The KUBO wouldn't forget what had happened, nor would they. As dawn broke the horizon, spilling sunlight through the wooden slats, the trio stepped out, embraced by the warmth of a new day. They would take these memories with them, renewed in spirit, walking hand in hand, ready to leave their fears behind but carry the essence of their journey forward. With a final glance back, they smiled. The KUBO had its scars, but now it stood not just as a relic of fear but as a beacon, a reminder that friendship could conquer even the darkest of nights. And remember, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share.